There is an historical connection and also philosophical connection between Plato, Aristotle, and Aquinas. This is really important because, in this sense, there is, in this sense, a specific type of connection between the idea of natural law in relation with the idea of social life that, for example, Plato, Aristotle, and Aquinas theorized. It is interesting because Plato, historically, according to his type of historical period, for example, Plato lived during the Peloponnesian War. And in this sense, according to Plato, on the one hand, because the demagogy that was developed in Athens, on the other hand, because in this sense, Athens was defeated during the Peloponnesian War, in particular by the fact that Sparta was supported by the gold, by the wealth, by the gold of the Persians. In this sense, according to Plato, this type of structure it was in relation with the demagogy. In fact, Athens decided to follow, in particular, his aristocrats, or better, some particular type of aristocrats. On the one hand, Pericles, that in any case died at the beginning of the Peloponnesian War, but on the other hand, also, for example, Alcibiades, that it was in this sense, part of a family of Pericles. And these two men that were in relation, in this sense, with the family of Alcmeonides, an important aristocrat family of Athens. This is interesting because Plato, on the one hand, reflecting about the actions and the ideas that Pericles developed during the Peloponnesian War, and the fact that Pericles accepted the Peloponnesian War, but on the other hand, the idea of Alcibiades that tried to explain that the Greeks had to go to Syracuse, in particular, had to go to Sicily according to Alcibiades, to conquer this island. In this sense, according to Plato, it is interesting because, on the other hand, the Athenian people that decided to support the idea of Alcibiades to go to Sicily in relation with the idea that they didn't know anything about Sicily, try to explain that in any case, Athens was following the bad people, the some dangerous people. And this is interesting because Athens, in the end, following the idea of Alcibiades, lost all his fleet, and in any case, it was then in really dangers. In particular, because also Alcibiades decided to support and after the ideas and the politics and in any case the situation of Sparta against Athens, and in the end supported also giving some indications to the Spartans, but also to the Persians. He decided, in any case, to develop a specific type of behavior that it wasn't, in this sense, as a supporter of Athens. In this sense, he became an enemy of Athens, but in any case, he produced also some specific type of civil wars in Athens in relation with the idea, for example, that he could give some important informations to the Greek king in relation with the fact to support the Athenian people only if the Athenian people decided to change their government to the democracy on the oligarchy. In this sense, this develop a specific type of debate into Athens that in any case produce a sort of civil war. And this it was the first civil war because in any case after the Peloponnesian War and after the victory of Sparta, and after the destruction of the walls of Athens, we know that Sparta took the power and imposed his tyrants into the city-state of Athens. In any case, Plato analyzed this type of situation and try to understand specifically what happened to Athens. In this sense, according to Plato, on the one hand, there is the idea of demagogy that produces, in this sense, the idea that some politicians could understand what it was better for the city-state, but in any case, he didn't know really this. In this sense, in fact, Plato, to criticize this type of behavior, used the philosophy of Socrates to explain that in any case, the idea of politics, the idea of demagogy, it all present in this sense. But in any case, Plato tried to criticize this type of structure, developing the idea of metaphysics. In this sense, in fact, according to the idea of politics, of the sophists that educated the aristocrats, the member of the aristocracy, during the ancient Greek society, according to Plato, we have to discover who we are. And therefore, there is a critics against, in this sense, the sophists and in relation with, in this sense, the structure of the politics of Athens. In fact, the aristocrats of Athens consider better that education that could develop in relation with the rhetoric, convince others with the persuasion of the words. According to Plato, in this sense, on the contrary, we have to understand something in relation with who we are, but in relation also in relation with what the other are. This is important because with this type of influence, the fact that we influence the other and the other influence our, we can understand the rational theology. In this sense, in fact, according to Plato, there is the main god, the demiurge, and there aren't specifically the gods in the things. In fact, there is, in this sense, the social life where where are the others, and with the others we can understand something because the others explain something to us, and we can create a specific type of association in relation also with our soul that it is connected with the metaphysics idea. This type of metaphysics is in relation with our soul because our soul, it depends by metaphysics. In fact, according to Plato, there is the reincarnation. After our life, we have another type of life after specifically a reincarnation, because after our death, our soul, it will go to the metaphysics, and then he returned to the physics into another body. In fact, according to Plato, there is this type of division between body and soul. But on the other hand, in relation with the idea of our politics, in relation with the idea of our actions, we will be a specific type of incarnation, a better or a worse reincarnation. Therefore, that people that did important actions, good actions, and ethic actions during their life, they will have a good reincarnation. And the people that didn't this, they will have a bad reincarnation. In any case, we have to understand that Plato tried to rethink about his contemporaries in relation with the idea of metaphysics, in relation with the idea of judgment. Therefore, the idea of judgment that is universal, that it is a relation with all people. You can be aristocrats, you can be a normal person. In this sense, in any case, you will be judged. You will be judged in relation with your actions. This is really important, and Plato tried to connect the idea of rational theology as research of the truth that are part of a structure of the assemble of gods, in relation also with the idea of reincarnation and moral judge or moral actions. Therefore, when we do something, we can analyze something, we can think about something, and according to Plato, in relation with this type of action that we do, in relation with this application that we do, we will have a specific type of consequences. This is really important because Plato tried to rethink the gods of Olympus in the Homer literature, in particular because the gods of Olympus of Homer literature are fought between them, and there is no specific type of truth between these gods, in particular because each one of these has his specific type of truth and fought against the other to support his truth. According to Plato, instead, there is only one truth, and yeah, the gods of Olympus can explain something, but in any case, there is only one truth, and there is no monopolization of one of each god of Olympus. There is only single truth, and you can explain something wrong. In any case, there is something that it is true in relation with that you have explained. Therefore, according to Plato, there is a universal idea that is the same, and our soul depends by this idea. And therefore, there is this type of connection between this main idea, the truth, God, or demiurge, that assemble things, and rational theology in relation with moral judgment, in relation with our actions, bad or good actions, but also in relation with the discovery of something that we can analyze in the reality, in the nature, therefore, God that explains something in this sense. Aristotle retook these ideas and tried to explain the idea of potential and acts. Therefore, the pure act is God, and we can understand something when we understand the idea of movements. This is really interesting because Aristotle tried to rethink about Plato, but Plato and Aristotle understood that city-state, it is in relation with this because in relation with scarcity, in relation with the idea of limit, in relation with the idea of law that is a specific type of necessary because it is important to limit the conflict. In fact, the idea of reformation in the Republic of Plato is trying to limit the conflict, as Clisthenes tried to make. In fact, in Clisthenes' ideas of reform, it is important to create a specific type of connection between families of different type of classes to have common sons, because in this sense it will be sons derived by some aristocrats and by some middle classes. Therefore, that sons are a part of idea of a connection between classes, and therefore, if different type of classes will have different type of sons or the same sons, therefore they won't fought between them. They will finish to fight between them because there are the sons that they have in relation. This is the main idea of Plato, that according to his philosophy has to interpret in relation with the soul. Therefore, the idea of soul to consider the genetic and the attitude to exemplify the idea that you have a specific type of position, not in relation with demagogy that brought Athens to fall the Peloponnesian War, as the rhetoric of Alcibiades, or as the rhetoric of Pericles, but in particular the type of attitude that it is important in relation with attitudes, in relation with inclinations, in relation with your genetic and your potential, that can become act. And in this sense, you can exemplify your what you are and your place in your society or in your community, with each of one which is really important, that is really important in the impact of a society. And this is the main idea of Aristotle, that it criticized Plato because Plato tried to think this ideally. In fact, the idea of Plato, the pragmatic idea of Plato, is that we are different in relation with our attitudes and in relation with our potentials. It is important. This is why there is only one Mozart, or because there is only one Cristiano Ronaldo, or there is only one, or some people that are better than others to do something, because there is work, but there is also the genetic, there is also the idea of attitudes. And this is really important because Plato tried to think that ideally you can already know what you will be. But the critic of Aristotle is you cannot do. You cannot know this. The idea of Aquinas in the Middle Ages is, in another way, a sort of connection between these two philosophers, because technically the idea of creativity of Plato anticipated the idea of creativity, the idea of genetic in relation with the idea of work, the idea of skills that you develop in relation with your genetic, but the idea also of your skills and work and discipline that you explains. But on the other hand, the idea of Aristotle that explained against Plato that you have to discover what you are in relation with the environment. Therefore, according to Plato, probably only the metaphysics is better than other. And this metaphysics impacts on the idea of genetic because are the same thing, according to Plato, genetic and metaphysics, because we are soul. According to Aristotle, on the contrary, there is also the idea in particular of the environment that influence this type of genetic, that in any case explains something that individuals is in relation with his communities. In any case, the idea of genetic is in any case important because is the individual is in part it's genetic, but is also, according to Aristotle, the society. In fact, the main critic that Aristotle developed against Plato is that you cannot know what you will be, because the society can change you. And the idea of Aquinas is in the middle between these two philosophers, because on the other hand, there is the main structure of the idea of the philosophy, of the metaphysics, God, that produces something. And on the other hand, there is the idea of pragmatic thing that we are in the society as different type of structures as individuals, and we have different type of creativities. But God, according to Plato, as Aquinas supported, is the simple thing that creates something that, as Aristotle supported, is different between people, between us. We are different because we have different genetic, we have different creativities, we have different inclinations, we have different skills. And this type of differences, it produced by God, and why this is the main argument that explain that why genetic, why inclinations, why attitudes, why works, why disciplines are not in contradiction with the idea of metaphysics, that on the other hand, it was supported by two pagan authors, for example, Plato and Aristotle. But it was supported also, this argument, by Aquinas, a Christian author. This is really important because three authors, different between them, in particular two authors in relation with one, explain the same thing with different type of ideologies of their times. In fact, Plato and Aristotle didn't have the idea of Christianity. Aquinas had this idea, but on the other hand, they explain the same something in relation with the main thing that produce with math something, or according to Plato and Aristotle, assemble something, according to Aquinas, produce something, create something from zero, because at the beginning, according to Aquinas, in relation with Christianity, it wasn't anything. But then Aquinas explained that the idea of property, the idea of social science, the idea of law are that idea that derive from to limit the conflict, as Plato and Aristotle explained, but also, according to Aquinas, there is the supporting of the idea of Plato in relation with who we are, because we are created, therefore we have a specific type of impact, and we have a specific type of attitudes that are different between them, and potentially we can be better in a specific type of work than the others, or vice versa, because our genetic is that. But in the other way, there is the idea of environment that Aristotle explained that Aquinas supports, because we are in the society and we have a specific type of influence of this society. This is really important because this creativity and the society is composed by individuals that are really different. Therefore, in relation with the society where you live, or in relation with the people that influence you or explain you something, you can change because you have different type of influences. And you can find something, or you can understand that you are good to do something because probably, I don't know, a man or a woman one day explain you, oh, you know that you could do this, why you don't try to do this? And you try, and you understand that you are good. But because you're genetic, and because, in this sense, the environment that indirectly with these actions, or indirectly with the experience, explain you this. And in the end, this is probably the main objective that school had to consider. The idea to educate people, the idea to educate children, understanding that the school has to consider how to educate them to discover the main attitudes, to promoting them to develop their attitudes. Because attitudes are different and are part of the creations, as Aristotle and Plato, in relation with the assemble, as Aquinas, try to theorize. Bye.